you just saw it, and now you're going to meet those behind it, the co-directors of this incredible new film, Tad Munnnings, Michael Del Monte. It's great to have you guys here. So you're a runner, you're a filmmaker. Why did you do this?
I met Michael at the beginning of this film, and it came, he had an idea, or I guess posed a question that you can't run a sub 3-minute kilometer without believing in something. And that was immediately the kind of premise of what we were after here, and to figure out, well, what does that mean? I mean, it can be belief in science, it can be belief in God, it can be belief in whatever you want, but when you come to the end of yourself, when you're pushing your limits, what do you believe in? So we set out with that premise to make a film, and the initial goal was to go and sort of follow a number of runners at different levels, and to examine their stories and what pushed them. And during that process, one of the runners we were following was Wesley Korir, and his life took a massive turn as he decided he needed to do something beyond running. And we decided to go all in with him, and that became the film.
Well, and I guess for you, Michael, I mean, you were a champion runner, right? And this was. So, yeah. I imagine. Do you think you could beat?
No, I mean, you know, part of the desire to tell this story, along with what Tad was saying, is also that the Kenyans and Ethiopians are the most elusive athletes on the face of the earth, that they dominate this sport, and me and all my colleagues and all the runners, elite runners from the Western world, look up to them in awe, but no one really knows that much about them. And I think that was part of, you know, the desire to get to know what propels them beyond even just the physical attributes that they have, their body types, and being from altitude. There's some type of mentality that these guys have that I want, you know.
And you saw that, right? I mean, this little phrase that you alluded to a minute ago, I mean, there's this meaning that has to drive you to do this. Because, you know, I don't run. I'll just be honest with you. If I couldn't run from one end of the studio to the other without ending up in the hospital. Yeah, but this isn't something you do for fun only, right? I mean, you're driven to do this.
Yeah, it's, I mean, if you're talking about Africa, obviously, they do it way beyond sport. I mean, this is life for them. They're not doing it to achieve personal bests in the same way people in the West do things. They're doing it to make money, and they're doing it to support their family and their people. And it's a very real, it's why you have a job in what you do. You find meaning in it, but at the same time, you have a life outside it that you need to be working for. And these guys, they've been given a gift to do this, these men and women, and this is really what their God-given gift is. And it's just amazing the clash of both the nature and nurture in them.
And so you're setting out to tell this story. You have this idea, you know, defining what the meaning is, you know, behind this, right? Because we all do things for and you make films for a purpose. Right. I mean, you subjected yourself to this torture for a long period of time, seeking, you know, a purpose in all of this. But then you zeroed in on this story of one runner who won the Boston Marathon, who has a story that didn't end there. Why him, and what is the story?
Well, where we were incredibly fortunate is that it's one thing to examine themes. And certainly running is a great metaphor for life, and running the race and doing all those types of things. But examining themes and being engaged in a story are two different things. And what happened with Wesley is that he's a runner who's come from poverty in Kenya. He's at the top of his game. He's won the Boston Marathon. And then he's asking himself, is this it? You know, is this what it's about? And his purpose, his meaning in running is waning to some degree. And that's right where we sort of pick up his story. And he's saying, you know, I need to do more. I need to help my people. I need to do something. You know, so as he makes this change in his life and decides he's got to go back to Kenya and make a run to go help his people, we're there, you know, asking the questions. Is this the right choice? Why is he doing this? How is he going to find purpose? You know, and only once he's sort of stepped aside from running for a period of time does he realize what it's given him, the discipline it's given him, the willingness to persevere, the things that it's given him that only come from when you dedicate yourself to something. And so we get to see that. We get to sort of learn what a real calling is and how you can use something like running to get at something much larger.
You know, a lot of people that are, you know, watching us talk today, when they hear you say things, you know, like that, the drive and the determination behind all this and things that are driving them. I mean, what makes a good film, I think, the way you put this thing together is you pulled a life out of it. You pulled a life story out of it. You know, and I think, you know, you have an interesting background as well. You have a master's degree in theology, right? I mean, so how does that connect, like, with all of this?
Well, you know, as Todd was saying, I think the original idea of how did this really transpire to come about with Wesley is a bit of a story in itself, being in the right place at the right time. But what's interesting about is those initial ideas that we had conversations around early on are what are embedded within his story. The ideas that we were both deeply inspired by and moved by, the essence of it is lived out in this film. And that's what I think makes this so special. And any great documentary or film special is when you set out with an idea, but that idea becomes a reality. And that's hard. That's, you know, there's a bit of, you know, outside of your ability to orchestrate that. So I think we both feel pretty fortunate to be able to be there at that time to, as Todd was saying, not just tell themes and not just have talking heads and intellectual people in rooms discussing these things, but you get to be with someone making these life choices, struggling with these choices, thinking, did I make the right decision? Did I not make the right decision? And you have to feel that conflict.
And then out of the film, I mean, you're really changing lives, right? So the film is called Transcend, and then you have the Transcend Running Academy in Kenya. Tell us about that.
Well, what was so neat, in the middle of making this film, you realize you're deep into a whole culture of running. And then on the one hand. On the other hand, you've got Wesley, and it's like, how did he come from this and have an idea to change the world? And really, it's when he got the opportunity to come to America, get an education, that he's able to step back and realize, hey, governments can function. You know, honesty can prevail. People can make real change. And I think that bit allowed him to build the foundation of, I need to go back home and make change. And so out of that, we realized we need way more Wesleys. There's some big challenges in Kenya. He's facing big challenges in his role now, and we need more of him. So the Transcend Academy was born to do just that.
And you're doing it every single day. You've got a whole batch of future Kenyan leaders that are going to be inspired by your documentary, by Wesley's story. And the amazing thing is that in just a little while, you've met the directors of the film, the people who saw the story, they desired to tell the story, and they told it in this beautiful way. And if you stay right here, you're going to meet Wesley too. You don't want to miss this.